These are some of the hottest 65% mid-tier budget keyboards that have come out in 2022. And there's a particular board from this batch that's missing. And when I had the opportunity to pick this board up from a friend, I couldn't resist. I wanted to make a video on it for you guys. And that's what is in this box. Hello and welcome everyone. Today we have a board that has had a lot of conversation taking place over the last year. It's an in-stock board. It's an open source board. And I've also recommended this to a lot of people who are looking for something in a budget space. Now what I'm talking about today is this board that I picked up secondhand from a friend so that way I could talk about it a bit. And that board, if I can get it out, that board is the Bakeneko65. Now this board is fairly inexpensive if you get it in its cast form. This particular model comes from Novelkeys. It is just under $200 and it is CNC'd aluminum and anodized, not painted. And in addition to that, it includes a zinc weight instead of a silicon weight. Now, I still think that this is a pretty good value if you're going for a particular sound. The Bakeneko is a gummy O-ring mounted keyboard. We've got these little spots here where the gummy O-ring can bounce off of. And I find it to be a very simple and interesting thing, especially considering you can you can build this board using nothing but files that you can find on the GitHub. Now this is a modified version of those files. It is something that Novelkeys does offer. Now again, I do need to preface this with the fact that this is a secondhand unit, so the build experience is going to be a bit different than what you would get standard. This does ship with cherry clip-in stabilizers. And the reasoning is because, let me get the PCB out and show you what I mean. There is an O-ring that goes around the entire PCB, and you have the stabbed keys that can cause interference if you use screw-in stabilizers. So for the sake of this build, you want to use clip-ins, and the individual that I purchased this from, or I guess traded for, they put in TX stabilizers, which are very nice stabilizers. I'm a cherry clip-in guy, but I also have like the single set of TX stabs that I did use in my Satisfaction 75. But I am looking forward to seeing how they perform here. He chose to build it with, we've got plate foam here. He did I think it's either polycarbonate or palm plate, I can't remember. So he did purchase that aftermarket, but it does come with an FR4 plate as your default. So the intention today is I would like to keep the foams that are under the plate dampening foams, but we're going to use the FR4 plate. I'm not going to use any kind of Poron stuffing or anything like that. I want to see what it sounds like when it is fresh, when it is out of the box, when it's built as intended. It's pretty straightforward. It's very much in the same way that you would build any keyboard. The only difference is that instead of putting gaskets, like Poron gaskets or tray mounting or top mounting, you just have this plate that sits on top, and that plate will sandwich this O-ring here, and that will create the buffer against the case. So what I'm going to do is, again, this is really straightforward. There's not a whole lot to talk about. at this point. So what I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and throw some switches on it. Now, the switches that we're going to be using today are my cream sodas. A lot of people are getting their orders in. I got my order in about a week ago, and I think they are a very good candidate for this board, because I do expect kind of for them to complement the more clacky nature of this keyboard. So we're not going to use, like a lot of times I'll use a PE foam sheet. I won't be using this PE foam sheet that's under here. I want to remove that. And then I'm also just looking for that natural board sound. But I do like the lack of top end hollow, or the top side hollowness. So I will be using the plate foam. That's just personal preference. So I'm going to slap these cream sodas in here. We'll come back and talk about, you know, how the plate fitment is, things like that. I think I'll go ahead and come back and we'll demonstrate how it goes into the board. And then we'll talk about what keycaps we're using today. So I'm going to go and put these in, and I'll see you on the other side. All right, that was pretty straightforward, except for the spacebar switch I missed. I did not find any real issues with the plate alignment. The plate was not too tight. There's no standoffs that hold the plate to the PCB, so having a 5-pin switch is probably a must in my opinion. And speaking of which, those of you who are new to the channel, again, these are my cream sodas. These are made by Gateron. They're a switch I designed this past summer, and they have recently released. They are a 5-pin switch. They've got an ink bottom, a milky top, and a palm long pole stem, this is only the second switch to ever use a Gateron stock long pole stem. And they're 63.5 gram bottom out, and they are a linear switch. And these are available through many vendors right now. A lot of them are on their last little bit of extras. So if you're interested in these, definitely check out the vendors. And I'll leave a link to the original group buy page. And we are hoping to get these things set as an in-stock switch. So we'll see where that goes. But moving on from that, we've got our O-ring here. I believe this is a 55A, so it's kind of like a mid-soft. It's not a hard, it's not a soft, it's kind of somewhere in the middle. And that will give us a little bit of bounce, a little bit of flex, but also give us a nice solid isolation. And not flex, it'll give us bounce, because there's not a whole lot of flex in this board, as you can see. Okay, so you put it on like that, and then you attach your JST. Now I may end up having to come back in here when we're all said and done, and we're gonna maybe have to add some foam below just to kind of isolate it from the case. But now once you got it all lined up, you just take it and you slide it up against this here, and it all just kind of slots into the case. And this is why we've got to use we've got to use clip-ins, because if you don't, the screws that hold in the stabilizers will cause this O-ring to bunch up even more. Now you can use your fingernails, but I like to use a spudger. And you guys have seen me do this with my own homemade kits. And we just kind of go through and go along and press in that O-ring. And then once we've got it where we want it, and then we've got, there we go. And even here, it's kind of tight with the clip-ins, so we've got to be careful. And there we go, we got it all in. Once you have it in, you just press it down into place. You saw how easily that went in? The easiest dang mounting system in the world. I love it. And then when we want to pull this out, all we do is, you can just lift and pull back out the opposite way that you put it in. It gives us, I don't know if you'll be able to pick that up very well, but there is a little bit of bounce, but again, not too much. And I don't know, I think it's just so simple, man. So let's talk a little bit about the keycaps that we're going to use today. I've had these sitting in the closet for a little while now. This is the Cherry Milkshake from Novelkeys. It is their Weirdo base. I bought them because I liked the way they looked, but I had no idea what I was going to put them on. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these in today's build and see how it kind of looks. I've got a lot of blue boards and I've got a lot of blue complementary keycaps, and I want something different. So I think I just want a simple black on white, but I think the Weirdo base will keep it fun. So let's take a look at these. You're gonna love them or hate them. Here are your wacky fun legends. They resemble the letters they're supposed to be, but at first glance, you're like, what is that garbage chicken scratch? But this is what we're going to be using today, is we're going to pop this on, and then the surprise will be after we come back from the cut, because I don't know whether or not I'm going to use the colored accents. So I'm going to go ahead and get this going, and I'll see you guys when it's all done. All right, there you have it. I think it turned out pretty nice. It was pretty straightforward. This is, how to put it, a bit more clackier than I would like. I think that's where a different plate would come in. I know that I have heard other people say that they prefer a heavier plate for it, so I will probably try to get an alu or stainless steel for it. So what we did was put these keycaps on. I noticed there was some hollowness, so I did put some 1.5 millimeter neoprene in there to reduce that hollowness. And now it sounds pretty solid. I did not use the PE foam. So we've got our neoprene and our PE foam there. And we used EVA plate foam. And now we should do a sound test. All right, so what are the final thoughts on this? I think this is clacky as all get out. It's something that I'm trying to grow into, because for the longest time I was into a foamy sound. I started using more top mount and brass plates and heavier plates lately. So my taste is kind of in flux right now. My favorite board, I just got my Grail board and the Mammoth 75, and I'm loving it. But I also think there is room for growth within the hobby. And I should not have waited so long to try this board. Not only is it affordable, not only is it available, not only can you get it anodized so you can get a more premium version of it, but you can get an inexpensive version of it too. And I think if you're going for like that, I don't want to make it exclusive to high end, but if you're going for that high end clacky sound, I think this is in the realm, if you were going for like the sound that you would get from a 60 or 65% board in the upper echelon of price points. Obviously, there's not as much weight here, so it doesn't sound as good. And we did have to add something to it to reduce resonance that there is and to get rid of that hollowness. So that is a downside, and I feel like if we did not put plate foam in this, it would sound pretty bad. But the way it came out, I am quite happy with it. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this build. I know that the modifiers are the accents are a little bit off, but I actually kind of like it. I dig it a little bit. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comments, and let me know if I waited too long for this. Is it still relevant? Would you still recommend this to people? Have you recommended this to people? So just let me know what your thoughts are on this. And of course, if you're not already following, be sure to subscribe and like or dislike the video to let me know if you like this type of content. And in addition to that, be sure to stay tuned because I've got a couple other boards lined up in the future. I just got my carbon fiber plate for the Thera V2, so that has kind of created a delay in me getting that video out. So we'll be building that here shortly. I've also got a Tomo to build, and then I've got some other stuff coming in that is mechanical keyboard adjacent. So it's still within the hobby, but it's something that's part of the growth of the hobby. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and checking out this Bakeneko65. I'll put a link in the description to Novelkeys and Canon Keys where you can pick these up. And then I'll put a link to the group buy that has links to all the merchants, the vendors for the cream sodas. So that way you guys can pick those up yourselves. Also keep an eye out for the Melody and the runner switches that'll be coming really soon. I'll have some videos on that as well. But yeah, y'all are awesome. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And until next time, y'all have a good one.